Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Like tonight's film, this is 1975's A Labor of Love. It says there, this is a Robert Flaxman, Daniel Goldman film, and it says the story of some people who tried to make an X-rated movie. This is from 1975, it's 67 minutes long. And the very, very interesting thing about this film is that it's unlike any other film that you've probably seen before like this. At first, when I was watching this film, I was trying to figure out, is this a mockumentary? We're so used to, in 2019, and seeing films that are meant to be real documentaries, but they're actually fake, so that they are trying to make something look real that's fake. Beyond found footage, just in documentaries. There's been a lot of this type of thing going on, even in the film Cannibal Holocaust, of course, all the way back. But A Labor of Love is the real deal. I believe it's the real deal. It says it's the real deal. It says, the home video debut of Robert Flaxman and Daniel Goldman's portrait of regional filmmaking gone awry. In the winter of 1974, a Chicago-based independent filmmaker found funding to make his first feature to be titled The Last Affair. The one stipulation mandated by the financial backers was that the movie needed to include hardcore sex scenes. This film, A Labor of Love, documents the ensuing heartfelt and earnest attempt to create an X-rated movie. Struggles with the cast, problems with crew and locations, problems with sex scenes. A movie about movies, documentary classic, quote unquote. This is a movie about movie making, and it is literally like you are watching a special feature to a film that you have not seen. You're watching a behind-the-scenes documentary on a film that you haven't watched. And you don't know the story, you don't know the characters, you're just kind of learning as you kind of move around in real time with the documentary. And the interesting thing with this also is that this was made well before there were ever, obviously home video or special features. I remember going to birthday parties when I was a kid and seeing, the making of Michael Jackson's Thriller. Like, that was like a big ordeal. It was like, holy crap, we get to see the making of something? Like, this is amazing. Wow. We're watching the making of something that we're very much aware of and that we're mystified by. And I was equally as mystified watching the making of it. And this is such a unique experience because it was so difficult for me at times to say, oh, wait a minute, this isn't real, right? This isn't real, but it is real. And you get to see the filmmaking process of an X-rated film, and an X-rated film with a script, with a storyline, with actors, and you get to hear the sound of the cameras, the motion picture cameras. You get to see the crew. You get to see the actors and actresses. You get to get interviews with them at the toughest of times. There are times when, the toughest of times with the director, the toughest of times with the art director, the toughest of times with the actors. I mean, there is some legit rough stuff in here, and some eye-opening wisdom in the whole world of this making of this movie. There are some very, very wild, interesting things going on with the making of the sex scenes in the film. And as you talk to the women and as you talk to the men, and you get to see, there's a lot of struggle in here. There's struggle financially, there's struggle with the temperature, there's struggle with running over time, with the locations. I mean, wow. I mean, this is an eye-opening experience to say the least. You do get nudity in here. You do get sex, although you're not seeing intercourse, although it was actually happening in the movie. You do see some masturbation. The storyline itself is very interesting as you kind of uncover little pieces of it as you watch this behind-the-scenes documentary of the movie. And it gets to be very interesting with the director as well. And he's very candid, he's very frustrated, and this is no holds barred. It seems like no one is scared of saying what they are saying. I found that I could have watched this for another couple of hours. It was only 67 minutes. It was such an interesting snapshot of movie making, 1975. You know, we have quotes here on the front of this DVD from Gene Siskel, full of natural comedy, a fine document of the sometimes goofy, often awkward American sexual revolution. Roger Ebert says an absorbing document captures what pornography cannot permit, the human reality of the sexual experience. And Lloyd Sachs from Variety magazine says, intelligent and thoroughly entertaining, a frequent hysterical group portrait. This is what it is. It is reality. It doesn't seem like anything was kind of snipped or taken away or, you know, I mean, I know it always begs the question in the editing process of a documentary of any sort, especially a behind-the-scenes documentary of the making of a film, is there always a bias? And does that bias, you know, that influences your editing, does it lean the documentary in one direction only? I mean, a lot of documentaries have been blamed for this in the past. Can a documentary ever be without bias? Can it? How would you know it's without bias? Because it shows everything. It shows things that are contradictory. Reality is contradictory, right? Reality is not as simple as black and white. It's really not. Just in one day of our lives. And it always seems, whether it's people interpreting the Bible, people interpreting any religious text, people just using their own brains and being very selective with their memories, being very selective with what they heard someone say. I always find that a lot of times as we grow and change, we change as people, and maybe there were some things in our past that, you know, we would just never do today, and so we try to erase our past. We try to change it a bit in lying to link up to where we are today, when in reality, that's a bias. Like it's as if we're making our own lives a documentary, right? So the question always arises, is there ever a documentary that's without bias? And, you know, in relation to A Labor of Love, what do I mean? Do I mean, is it intent on just showing the darker side of the making of this movie, or of the sexual revolution, or of making X-rated films? Or is it intent on only showing how great it is and how liberating it is? And it really seems that A Labor of Love is showing reality, but it's pretty morose, you know, in just movie making in general. So you have movie making in general, low budget movie making in general, porn movie making. So you have all those worlds wrapped up together in this 67-minute film here. And, you know, it's hard to say about a bias in particular. I mean, it is what it is. You know, it's funny. I think we always get this perception that documentaries need to be showing something negative, or something, not necessarily negative, but showing the darker side of things, because that means it's real. Okay? That means it's real if it's showing, like, you know, a bad day. For some reason, a bad day is more real than a good day. Okay? So, that's always things to take into consideration. And A Labor of Love really seems raw to me. It seems real. It seems so real that it seems unreal at times. There's no music in the film. It's very dramatic, very indie, very ahead of its time, I would say. And just the sound of the camera is the soundtrack enough. I would say I have never experienced being inside the movie making process the way this movie did it for me. This is A Labor of Love, 1975 right here. Vinegar Syndrome put this out on DVD. This was actually number 9 for them. So it's way back in their catalog. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more, like A Labor of Love. What a fascinating document. And the girls are hot, especially the one playing the daughter and the main girl as well, who was having her period. It's all here, folks. Please feel free to check out my own personally made movies and music at my Vimeo site, vimeo.com, www.vimeo.com/poopydiarrhea. That's POOPYDIARRHEA. Follow me there, and you can be up to date on all my new movies and music. Thank you so much, and good night.